depuis mon jeune âge, 11-12 ans. J'ai perdu un de mes frères qui a été emporté par le paludisme. Bon, voilà, comme je disais, ça fait 30 ans que je travaille à essayer d'améliorer la situation du paludisme dans mon pays et dans le monde. J'ai commencé un petit labo avec 2 personnes et plus moi-même en 2001. Le paludisme, c'est la première cause de mortalité, la première cause de morbidité dans notre pays. Ça demeure encore plus de 30% des causes de consultation dans les différentes structures de santé. Je fais partie de la première génération des senior fellows de EDCTP. Et ça, c'est vraiment un financement qui m'a permis de me stabiliser au Mali, qui m'a permis d'agrandir mon équipe. Quand j'étais en formation aux États-Unis, j'avais beaucoup d'opportunités de rester là-bas, mais j'étais parti avec l'objectif de mieux me former, mieux m'équiper pour venir travailler au Mali, pour venir contribuer à la solution. Nos recherches se font sur le terrain, dans les villages reculés, où nous sommes en contact direct avec la population. C'est pour cela que pendant que tout le monde était concentré sur les enfants de 0 à 5 ans, nous on avait déjà commencé à comprendre qu'il ne fallait pas négliger les enfants d'âge scolaire. Qui sont de 5 ans à 12 ans. Certains collègues nous ont beaucoup critiqués. Pourquoi vous gaspillez des médicaments sur les enfants de plus de 5 ans, etc. Nous avons testé l'efficacité de ces nouvelles combinaisons dans la prévention du paludisme chez ce groupe d'âge. Contribuer à montrer que d'abord que nous utilisons peuvent être utiles dans ce groupe d'âge. Les nouvelles recommandations de l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, la chimioprévention du paludisme saisonnier est maintenant étendue chez les enfants de 5 à 10 ans. Quand vous êtes dans un village et que les sages du village vous disent, depuis que vous êtes venu dans notre village, il y a très peu de petites tombes dans notre cimetière. Il n'y a pas plus de récompense que ça. Mais mon rêve, c'est de voir le jour où le paludisme sera éliminé du Mali et de l'Afrique. Et je pense que c'est possible. depuis mon jeune âge, 11-12 ans. J'ai perdu un de mes frères qui a été emporté par le paludisme. Bon, voilà, comme je disais, ça fait 30 ans que je travaille à essayer d'améliorer la situation du paludisme dans mon pays et dans le monde. J'ai commencé un petit labo avec 2 personnes et plus moi-même en 2001. Le paludisme, c'est la première cause de mortalité, la première cause de morbidité dans notre pays. Ça demeure encore plus de 30% des causes de consultation dans les différentes structures de santé. Je fais partie de la première génération des senior fellows de EDCTP. Et ça, c'est vraiment un financement qui m'a permis de me stabiliser au Mali, qui m'a permis d'agrandir mon équipe. Quand j'étais en formation aux États-Unis, j'avais beaucoup d'opportunités de rester là-bas, mais j'étais parti avec l'objectif de mieux me former, mieux m'équiper pour venir travailler au Mali, pour venir contribuer à la solution. Nos recherches se font sur le terrain, dans les villages reculés, où nous sommes en contact direct avec la population. C'est pour cela que pendant que tout le monde était concentré sur les enfants de 0 à 5 ans, nous on avait déjà commencé à comprendre qu'il ne fallait pas négliger les enfants d'âge scolaire. Qui sont de 5 ans à 12 ans. Certains collègues nous ont beaucoup critiqués. Pourquoi vous gaspillez des médicaments sur les enfants de plus de 5 ans, etc. Nous avons testé l'efficacité de ces nouvelles combinaisons dans la prévention du paludisme chez ce groupe d'âge. L'attribué a montré que d'abord que nous utilisons peuvent être utiles dans ce groupe d'âge. Les nouvelles recommandations de l'Organisation mondiale de la santé, la chimioprévention du paludisme saisonnier est maintenant étendue chez les enfants de 5 à 10 ans. Quand vous êtes dans un village et que les sages du village vous disent, depuis que vous êtes venu dans notre village, il y a très peu de petites tombes dans notre cimetière. Il n'y a pas plus de récompense que ça. Mais mon rêve, c'est de voir le jour où le paludisme sera éliminé du Mali et de l'Afrique. Et je pense que c'est possible.
Good morning, everybody, and a very welcome to all of you who are physically present today and our online speakers, online participants. We've all had a sneak view of our keynote presenter for today, Professor Abdoulaye Djimsé, and it's a real pleasure for me to introduce him. Professor Djimsé is a professor of parasitology and molecular epidemiology at the Malaria Research and Training Center at the University of Bamako in Mali. Professor Djimsé is committed to building research capacity in Africa and has been instrumental in the promotion of networks and partnerships collaboratively investigating malaria and drug resistance. He also coordinates the West African Network for Clinical Trials of Anti-Malarial Drugs, or VANATOM, a network of excellence which is supported by grants from the EDCTP. It is now my pleasure to invite our keynote speaker for this morning's session, Professor Djimsé, to give his address on Africa Needs Stronger Institutions, What is Making It Happen? Please, Professor Djimsé.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by correcting the fact that I actually lead the OneCam network. The OneCam is led by my beloved boss, Prof. Mboop, who is present in this room here. It is really a great privilege to address you and share our experience in building research institutions. The title said, Stronger Africa Needs Stronger Institutions. I don't think I'm qualified to talk about the other type of institutions. So I will be focusing on research, biomedical research institutions building. As you know, the population of Africa is getting near 1.5 billion, and right now we are about 18% of the global population. Economic growth is not doing so well, and our contribution to trade is, to say the least, marginal. The 20%, we endure 20% of the global burden of a disease which translates into tremendous economic loss due to communicable diseases, non-communicable diseases, injuries, etc. Yet, it's estimated that by the 2100, Africa would probably account for nearly 38% of the global population. And almost half of the youth in the world will be Africans. And as you all know, everybody says that Africa is a rich country, it's a rich continent, but with poor people, unfortunately. We have a wealth of natural resources that everybody is interested in and our available land for agriculture is just extraordinary. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. So the question is, why invest in a healthier Africa? I don't think it is just because it feels good. Yeah, of course it feels good to help fellow humans. I don't also think it's just because it is the right thing to do. Yes, it is the right thing to do to help fellow humans. But I think it is, in addition to all of that, it's because it's the right investment for the global future. Better health will come with stronger health research ecosystems. If we are healthier, our youth is healthier, they will be more productive, make more money, and then they will be filling planes to come and live in your shiny hotels here instead of risking their lives in the Mediterranean Sea, just like the Asians are doing now. And they will live longer, develop chronic diseases, have the money to buy your expensive drugs. So it is important that to do it, it's not just a philanthropy, it's not just being kind. It's being kind to us and being kind to you. So instead of boring you with things that you can find online on general concepts about institutional development, I've decided to share with you our story, the story of the Malaria Research and Training Center, which is now part of the one of the 3 international centers of excellence in research that the NIH is funding around the world. So we are one of the 3 ICERs. Our ICER is ICER Mali. The ICER Mali, it takes, like in Africa, we say it takes a village to raise a child. It also takes the world to build a strong institution. And we have, our pioneers have understood that and have diversified the collaboration, starting with support from the NIH, but diversifying to reach many different countries, many different institutions, and many other partners. We think that's one of the keys for sustainability. It all started with Prof. Philippe Rank, a French parasitologist and zoologist who lived 14 years in Mali. And towards the end of his stay, he said he didn't have much money to leave behind, but he said he would leave people behind. He decided to train young Malian scientists, then young Malian scientists. Many of them have made the marks in the history of science and education in Mali. I will focus on my two bosses, Professor Yaya Touré, an entomologist, and my late boss, Professor Ogobara Dumbo, a parasitologist. They together created, with the support of the NIH, the Malaria Research and Training Center, and with a clear vision of long-term development. They focus on training people. And they consider themselves as the F0 generation, and they selected the F1 generation, of whom I'm one, and we were sent around the world to go get masters and PhDs. I landed at the University of Maryland in Baltimore, and then F2 generations, and we continued the tradition. We are at F12 generation now at the MRTC. Our unsung heroes are these gentlemen from the NIH. You will recognize Tony Fauci, Lou Miller, Bob Guards, Tom Willems, Rick Sakai, who spent more than 25 years living permanently in Mali, and more recently, Cliff Lane. These are the men who really initiated and supported the collaboration with the Malaria Research and Training Center. And it was a holistic approach. You needed the infrastructure. Training the people was, I already mentioned that we were 13 of us who went to the US, were registered in various universities to get masters and PhDs. But if we were to come back to the lab that we left, maybe we would have went back to where we were trained. So the NIH invested in building up the infrastructure. And I can tell you, when I was doing my PhD, when I went back to Mali, the lab I used to work resembled exactly the lab I left in Baltimore. And that was key to really bringing back. There are actually over 98% of those who went for training abroad came back to Mali to work. As I said, we have been continuing the tradition, continuing the training, and when you do the training, you have to to actually give some room for those new trainees who come back, offices, lab space. So investing in buildings is critical. I know many funders don't like to do that, but if you don't invest in buildings where you train people, or you give grants, where they will be sitting and where are they going to be doing their work. This is our, on the tall building that you see there is a Belgian building, which we built through our Deltas grant, funded by the Wellcome and DFID and others through the AISA platform. And the other one is the building that was funded by the French AFD that gave us a €2 million grant to set up this building and to equip it. You have the buildings. Buildings have to be equipped with adequate lab infrastructure. And that also, it's a constant need to be at the cutting edge of science. You need to have the equipment that goes with it. And you can see most of those young folks were, this is Laurent, who spent 10 years at Novartis and joined us in Mali doing his stuff there. If we didn't have the tools to work, I don't think he would have stayed. This Antoine, who trained at University of Maryland, is now he's the one who sequenced our first COVID genome in Bamako during the COVID. We have Malditov HPLC machines, and we continue to grow the workforce. We work with the communities, in the communities. We have field sites scattered around the country, and security permitting, we do everything we can to touch all the segments of the Malian country. So this is what happened in Mali. We felt that if we were just by ourselves, we wouldn't go far. As I said, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go with people. So we started developing capacity around us, and started with an example of development of capacity in Guinea. When we won the first EDCTP integrated grant, we developed this WANECAM, West African Network for Clinical Trials of Antimalarial Network, and we purposely decided to include Guinea into the consortium. When we first visited the lab, the center, the Mafrenya Center, this is the building that they said we could use. It was a place where donkeys were sleeping. We said, well, we'll take that. And back then, there was a lot of electricity problem in Guinea. So the only place where we could find steady cold chain was in a fish factory that you can see there. And these are ladies waiting for fish to take to the market. And these are our reagents stored among the fishes there. That's the only place we could have steady, cold room. We had to start somewhere. But we had this gentleman, Dr. Abdoulaye, who was identified by my late boss, Prof. Dumbo. He trained with us in Mali. He came to train here in the University of Lyon with Prof. Stéphane Picot. And he had just won his PhD, and we knew that we could count on him to lift up the Guinean team. So what did we do? First started with a need assessment. We went on the ground, saw everything, discussed with people to understand, to see for ourselves. And then we undertook, with the EDCTP funding, infrastructure development, human resource development, short courses, long degree training, on-the-job training, constant supervision. That was a key as well. Constant supervision. We flew to Guinea several times because Bea was just a new PhD student coming in. Nobody knew him in Guinea. So even getting quotes for things in the country was not easy for him. So it took a lot of back and forth with us going to support to push things forward. And constant monitoring. And we did all of this in the context of a study, an epidemiological study, where his new team was trained in doing basic epidemiological study before they embark on the clinical trial itself. So this is the infrastructure that we had to build to do the WANECAM-1 trial there. And we had to put all of the pieces together: generator for electricity, computers for data entry, training the IT people, training the finance people, and above all, getting internet. Those days, internet was not something easy to get, and having a VSAT, to install a VSAT there was I can write a book about that. And we also, as we are building the infrastructure, training the clinical lab through hands-on training. We would bring some of the staff to Mali to work with us, and we would send some of our staff to Guinea to live and work with them and teach them entomology. You can see this Dr. Umu teaching how to recognize mosquitoes, short course training, and degree training. We enrolled a few students through the EDCTP funding in masters and PhDs. So that has really sharply improved the site, and from having no working microscope, in a few months they were able to contribute to a ACH GCP compliant clinical trial, phase 3 clinical trial, and recruited up to 700 patients before the end of the Wanakam study. Ebola hit before we finished. And when Ebola hit Guinea, we had to close the site, and actually the team was brought into the Ministry of Health to help with the Ebola crisis. That's when the NIH, Cliffline, wanted to do some work in Guinea. He looked around and ran into our lab. He just dropped his suitcase there and adopted the lab, and they just improved the site like the American way, big way, changing everything, and this is what the site looks like today. Instead of our little VSAT, they bring these big pylons that can give them internet, and the equipment that they have today. I'm actually, when I visit the site, I feel a bit jealous because they're really, really super well equipped in Guinea, working in collaboration with the NIH team there. I'm so happy to see what this center has become, and now they are at the forefront of epidemic response. Would it be Ebola, COVID, Lassa fever? They're involved with all kind of biomedical research there. And the team is building up. The training is going on. Now they have one professor with 2 PhDs and 3 more PhD candidates, a number of master students, and the team is just improving. Now, when we won the EDCTP 2 grant, Wanakam 2, we did the same thing. Since the capacity was already built in Guinea, we went to Niger, where almost nothing in terms of biomedical research was happening. This is our Wanakam 2 team, and there again, we did basically the same thing. We identify one good person, which in this case, in the red circle there, you can see Prof. Eric Adeosi, who is an infectious disease specialist that is now the lead of our Niger team. And I will be giving a talk right after this session about what we did in Niger, and I invite you to come there and learn more about what we did in Niger. Pretty much, we are doing the same thing in Niger that we have done in Guinea to bring up the team, and they are getting ready to contribute to the phase 3 CAF-LUM study that we are doing in collaboration with Novartis and MMV with our EDCTP2 funding. Now, what else is required for stronger research institutions? You need the ethics and the regulatory capacity. I think this cannot be overemphasized. The ethical and regulatory framework as integral parts of biomedical research. And unfortunately, there are not many funders that look into that direction, and we salute the EDCTP initiatives that target funds to training ethics and regulatory bodies in Africa as part of the global development of the clinical research ecosystem. We tend to sort of oversee the research support staff development, and they are critical. The program managers, the financial staff, monitoring and evaluation staff, communication staff, IT support, the admin support. And for those of us who don't have English as our primary language, English training is critical. I used to tell my young students, you learn English, you have 50% closer to your success in science. Those of you who speak English, you don't fully understand that. But yesterday I attended the Lusophone session, and everything they were saying there resonated with me as a Francophone. And the communities and policymakers, you have to work hand in hand with the communities. Like I used to tell my Global North colleagues, we don't work with mice, we don't work with rats, we work with people. It takes different skill sets to work with people. And that is also a need, some kind of training and capacity and capacity development. The community should be at the beginning, in the middle, and the end of everything we do. Most often, when people finish the study, they pack and go. You have to feed back to the community. If you don't feed back to the community, you come back with your product, they will say, we don't know what you have been doing. We see you with your white coats, but we don't know what you've been doing. So it is critical to have the community at heart when you are working. That's why it's important to develop the social scientists to be integral part of our teams, and to have a constant engagement with the policymakers, the health authorities. It is critical. They need to know from the beginning what you are going to do, what you are planning on doing, and if possible, involve them in the teams. Otherwise, when the product comes out, they won't know about it, and the taking up is going to be more difficult. Here again, I salute the Science for Africa Foundation's effort in community and public health engagement. This is one of the rare funders who require that you have a budget line for community and public engagement, which I think is very important. The overall research ecosystem, it's just not need to be built, but to be constantly improved. We have to train and keep reminding and keep training people, our young scientists, in issues like scientific misconduct, sound financial procedures, anti-bribery, having in place and implementing anti-bribery policies, creating a safe work environment for all, taking into account issues like sexual harassment, bullying, and stuff, whistleblowing policies. These are many things that usually you don't find in our institutions. And when your research reaches a certain level, these are requirements that you have to have. So it's part of the development of the center. So an efficient research support office is critical. Some of us, in addition to doing science, we do a bit of legal, we do a bit of politics. So when I see my colleagues in the North with a strong research support system that helps them with the budget, helps them with the contracts and everything, I'm just envious. We don't have that. We need to go towards that. Legal offices, IT, intellectual property offices. Again, many of our universities, we don't think about patenting, and we need to build capacity into those fields as well, because we publish everything, and then once it's published, there is little you can do after that. To finish, I think building research and training capacities in the least developed countries is one of the most cost-effective and sustainable ways to advance health and development. And I can tell you many of the things that the results that we are able to come by in the field of malaria have been used as recommendations by WHO. And being used across the board. And sometimes we actually rally our government to use them before even it is recommended by WHO. consistent and constant support from our governments, and this is need to be emphasized. Local support, local funding is very, very limited. So we have a major work to do to increase local funding. South-South, again, South-South collaboration is very, very, very small. It's minimal, it needs to be increased. That's why we are engaging with a number of African networks, the PDNA network, and that's a Pathogen Genomic Diversity Network Africa, where we do genetics work with 16 African colleagues, and the AMR, Antimicrobial Resistance Association, that we are also working with to engage South-South collaboration. All these are essential for building sustainable research capacity. I'll finish by thanking all of the support that we have been enjoying, and warm thanks to EDCTP. I have been involved with EDCTP since 2004. Michael and us, we grew up in the organization, and so yeah, it's really the impact of EDCTP is just amazing. Thank you all for all that you're doing. I thank my colleagues, WANECAM 1, WANECAM 2, the study population, our government, the government of Mali, and my younger colleagues who helped me put these slides together, Dr. Amina Tukone, Abdoulaye, and Maman Dao from Niger, for sending me pictures late last night. Thank you very much.
So thank you, a big thanks to Professor Djimsé, and congratulations. And what really shines through beyond the buildings and the laboratories is a visionary leadership. So congratulations on your achievements and all the initiatives you coordinate, including WANECAM. So with that, I hand it over to my co-chair, Professor Moses Bukhari, who would lead the question and answer session for your plenary. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harlin, and thank you very much, Professor Djimsé, for a very, very inspiring presentation. Now, I have two tasks here. The easy one I'll do last. The most difficult one is really, after such a presentation, to invite only one question from the audience, and because we have 5 minutes for that, and I think only one question and the answer from Professor Djimsé will probably take that time. So we'll now invite one question from the audience. You have time later on to interact with Abdoulaye in the networking sessions. We'll make sure we finish on time for the coffee break. Okay, so. Who is?
So if there are no questions, I think we're all interested in, what are really the benchmarks in your view which characterizes these strong institutions? What is really the thread which binds them all together and makes them really shine out?
Come again?
My question was really, you talk about strong institutions, and then we've discussed buildings, laboratories, policies, but there must certainly be something which, is a benchmark when you think of recognizing strong institutions, and what do you think is the key factor?
I think it starts with a vision. It starts with a clear vision of what it is that you want to achieve, and then from there you have to work the way up to it's not easy. It's not easy, but if you have the vision and the determination, you will fall and stand up and continue.
There is a question, yes, another question from the audience. Please, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the great talk, and thanks for being a voice for African institutions. In your talk, you mentioned that, and you showed us very fancy equipment, very expensive, but I can imagine how much you struggle to get support for maintenance, for supplies, and as you mentioned, we are not connected each other in institutions, so we have to blame ourselves too. So we have to have a mechanism to work together, to influence our governments to spend a reasonable amount to support research and undertakings. And as you know, traveling within Africa is very expensive too. So to travel to Mali is much more expensive than to come to France. So that shows that we are not well connected, so we have to improve. That's general comment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I think you are absolutely right. We need to access to supplies, access to maintenance, parts is a constant struggle. And travel is a reality. I'm happy to see that there are movement on the continent. A few countries are now allowing visa-free travel. We hope that the rest of the countries are going to follow suit. We just have to continue voicing the need to work together to strengthen each other.
Thank you very much.
There's just one more question, one quick question, Thomas, if you allow that. Dr. Bukhari, if you allow one more question. There was a quick question. Please, quick, yes.
Thank you, Professor Djimsé. That was so eloquently said on behalf of Africa. Something you touched on, and I think it sort of speaks to strong leadership, is the issue around reagents and how long we all wait for reagents to come onto the continent, and then also how much more we pay for those reagents once they get here. So I just wondered, have you got a magic solution for that?
Well, thank you so much for Joanne for bringing this up. Yeah, it is amazing how difficult it is to get reagents. It takes up to 3 months to get anything in most of our countries. Not only that, we pay 2-3 times more for the same reagents than our northern colleagues. I don't understand how you make poor labs pay three times more than rich labs to buy a TAC polymerase or to buy any equipment. It's just there is a lot of advocacy to do in this field, and maybe we need to come together to bulk buy so that we can catch the eye of the manufacturers to be able to negotiate better prices, because it's just not sustainable. The current economical landscape of the reagents and supplies and equipment, we just pay 3 times more than our northern colleagues. It's not right.
Well, you're not off yet, Abdoulaye, because we've got to give, I'm using your mic here, we've got some people online. We give them the opportunity, so there's one question that I'll have to read. So many thanks to the professor for the presentation drawing from his experience. May I ask, in his experience, the barriers that we are faced in applying capacity strengthening practices?
Okay, the barriers facing to apply capacity strengthening practices. Yeah, one of the barriers is that people like quick fixes. Most of the time, people want to organize workshops, and they think that they've developed capacity. You don't develop capacity with workshops. You provide new skills or additional skills to already trained people. If you want to develop capacity, you really have to invest in PhDs and masters so that they really get to be able to problem solve, not just to pipette things to get a band. That's the one thing sometimes we have problem with. And the other issue is that the landscape is you can't develop, if you are serious about it, you can't develop in silo. You have to have a holistic approach, taking into account the various elements that I outlined here. So silo is not going to get you anywhere.
Thank you very much. So we're now ready for the second part of this session, which is a presentation of the Outstanding Scientific Leadership Award. and that will be done. For the person who will be presenting that, I've got a task to introduce, but that's easy for me, and it will take a shorter time because my colleague, Dr. Thomas Nyarenda, is a friend and colleague, a clinician and public health professional that many of you know. And so Tom will now come forward to talk to us about the Leadership Award. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks, Professor Bokhari, for that. And indeed, this is the time to announce the winner for the EDCTP Scientific Award for this year. I must say that as a capacity building manager of EDCTP for many years, what I find also fascinating is untold stories when we come to scientific leadership. And Abdoulaye Djimsé touched on some of the things. But even if we play the videos, sometimes things are edited out that are very important. So I don't know how many of you in the audience come from families where your parents have been, let's say, illiterate, like mine. Can I see the hands up? You see, so many of you in the audience. So if my mom, who is still alive, if I asked her what I'm doing, it's kind of, it's like, yeah, I think it was written by God in a book of life. So that's the answer she gives me. So if you allow me, I have got 2 examples of stories to share with you very quickly. So I come from a country where the winner also comes from, so by coincidence. So for those of you who are interested in the issues of corruption in Africa, it's just a coincidence that the winner is also being presented by somebody from the same country. But if you know the story of David Banda in Malawi, who is the child of Madonna, adopted from Malawi, the lawyer who dealt with the case is a personal friend of mine, and probably the winner also knows him. And one day, he was telling us about a story where he went to his village, and then the elders, who are the friends of his father, came to him and said, "We want to thank you very much for making our village very proud. We have heard that as a lawyer, you've built your own court. So all these difficult cases that the government is suffering to adjudicate, they send them to you. And where I come from, you cannot say to a community that my father is a liar." So he said, "Oh yes, that's true. I have a court." But basically he has a private law firm. And I think many of us, our parents find it very difficult to explain what we do in this context. So scientific leadership in Africa carries all those burdens. And the next example, quickly also, is what Professor Bokhari told me, because he has been all over around the world. So at one point he was working in Guinea, Papua New Guinea. And he narrated to me an experience where one day he's in his office, then a spouse of the driver of his research team walks in and say, "Professor, when my husband turns up today, I want you to fire him. Because since you gave him the job, he has never been to the house again. And I hear that he has another wife at the research site." So these are the real stories from the field that our research leaders deal with, apart from what you see in the edited videos. So I wanted, these for me are really untold stories. Yeah, some of you have seen this BBC program, This Is Your Life, yeah? So we really need to be proud of our, these unsung heroes, because behind the science and leadership, there's real life stories. And where I come from, I'm the only doctor in my village in Malawi for many decades. And my family are very proud, and they go from village to village to say, we have beaten you, we have a doctor. And that will stand until another doctor is trained in my home district. So I just wanted to share with you that the next winner of this award probably shares my background. And the winner is Professor Kamija Piri from Kamuzu University of Malawi. So I think the next step is to see the edited version of what I've said in the video.
My name is Kamija Piri. I'm a professor at the Kamuzu University of Health Sciences in Malawi. I am also a director for the Training and Research Unit of Excellence. In short, we just call it TRUE. TRUE is an independent, non-for-profit research organization. We conduct a lot of clinical research around malaria and anemia. We have about 150 people in this unit, from doctors to nurses, research assistants. The big research achievement has really been around the discovery of a new malaria chemoprevention strategy. This started about 10 years ago when I was doing my PhD, following up kids who've had severe anemia. We treated them, but what we found out was that even after they had been discharged, about 20% of them died. I then developed an intervention where we would give the child an anti-malarial during that vulnerable 3 months period post-discharge, and found out that actually that decreased their risk of dying by close to 90%. All this evidence that we had gathered, we presented it to WHO. It was then recommended to all countries in Africa that have moderate to severe anemia as a policy. EDCTP is really around trying to reduce the morbidity and mortality related to certain specific diseases. There's HIV, TB, and very importantly, malaria. And I think this is where this research fits in. The other thing that EDCTP is very focused on is actually building research capacity. TRUE has supported to date close to 22 PhD students, and almost all of them are from the African region, most of them from Malawi. In my other role within the University of Malawi, I developed the curriculum for PhD students. I also developed masters in epidemiology, which is very close to my heart, and also a master's in medical statistics. I really do appreciate this award. It's the honor, the recognition that is really, really close to my heart. The first ever grant that I had was actually funded by EDCTP. So EDCTP has really gave me that springboard to actually build a big research unit. So I really owe a lot to EDCTP.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to present this award to Professor Kamija Piri, and congratulations, this is your life.
This is really an emotional moment for me. I thought that I would just make sure that I say all the right words. So I don't usually write up a speech, but this time I will. So thanks. I want to first thank EDCTP for giving me such an honor, for recognizing me in such a prestigious way. This is not only an encouragement to me, but a great motivation for all those that I've mentored and have believed in me. I've always wanted to be a scientist since I was like 14, and I wanted to be this famous scientist who actually discovered HIV drugs. And I still remember when I was doing my medical school training, 4th year, we all have a research project. I wrote a proposal, and I was using then, I think, a Pentium 5. I was just hoping that it would pass the Y2K, bug, because then all the computers were said to be doomed when we're hitting the millennium. But anyways, I printed this out, and I walked and dropped it in almost all the health NGOs that I knew then in my little town in Blantyre. And it took 2 weeks. It was a very sweaty and hot activity, 2 weeks. And after about a month, I got a letter back from WHO country office in Malawi, and they said that they had funded my study. I was over the moon. I mean, this was my first ever research grant, and it was funded to the tune of $50. And I still remember writing a financial report for that. That was to be my first publication ever. So I've managed to achieve this recognition today because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. I was first inspired by a calm and intelligent patient doctor who established the Wellcome Trust Center in Malawi. And as many of you know, this was Professor Marco Molyneux. During those early years too, I had the opportunity to also work with Professor Chris Whitty, who I'm sure many of you know became the chief medical officer during the COVID period for the UK. I later learned, just like Prof. Djimsé, that if you want to go fast, you go alone, but if you want to go far, you go together. And I've been supported by some really amazing colleagues, Professor Faiko Tekule from the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, Professor Richard Idro Balbo-Poka from Makerere, Björn Roberstad from the University of Bergen, Prof. Santa Pasricha from University of Melbourne. And closer to home in Malawi, Professor Ken Maleta and also Professor Victor Mwapasa. We all started off as colleagues, but now we're friends. If I can lastly just come back to EDCTP. As mentioned, in 2009, they awarded me my first big award of Senior Fellowship Award. And this basically was the creation of my research team. Started with 6 people, and now it's 150 people. EDCTP was that seed that grew and bore fruit. We now have a research building, took about $1 million to build, and about 5 years to build because it was piecemeal. But we got there, and we now have all the facilities to conduct cutting-edge clinical research. We even have a portable MRI machine. I must sincerely thank also my true team, especially Zainab Longwe, who's been my Chief Operations Officer for close to 10 years and has ensured that the boat is always afloat. I also want to thank, in a special way, all the masters, PhDs, and postdocs that I have worked with. I know some are even here, This would not have been possible without you, and this is also your day. Lastly, I would like to thank my family. My parents have always been my greatest fan base. My dad was the first person who really pushed me to be bigger than myself. And thank you for believing in me. And lastly, just thank you all for this great, great honor that you've bestowed on me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Believe it or not, we finished on time. And I'm really delighted about that because, you know, in Paris here with these sessions, when you're chairing, all the hosts will say, hey, sharp, sharp. We've got to get here by 10 o'clock. People have got to go and get your coffee. So thank you very much for coming, and thank you for listening. You can now go and continue networking. Thank you.